Hey everyone, welcome back to HD Reddit Reads. Today's topic is Redditors with real-life butterfly effect stories. What happened and what was the series of events and outcomes? Let's get into it. About 20 years ago, I was watching a TV show with a guy in Australia who feeds the homeless. At the end, they interviewed a few of the homeless who all said he was great, and their names flashed up on the bottom of the screen. One of the guys had the same name as my brother, who I hadn't seen for about 15 years. I looked at the screen, squinted, and there under the dirty grime was my brother, who was an addict and lost touch with us years ago. I called the TV program and got the name of the feeder guy. He contacted my brother and passed on my phone number. A couple of days later, I got a call and told him he can come live with me, and he did. He moved in at my place. Then, the next morning, we went up the road to get a newspaper and to look for a job. This was about 2000. Came back and he'd found someone advertising for English teachers in China. He asked me what I thought. I said, "What have you got to lose?" So, off he went, and loved it. Kept telling me to go, too. So, 6 months later, I quit my job, sold my car, moved everything I wanted to keep over to my older brother's place, and left for China. I was there for 18 years. I met a girl, got married, bought an apartment, had 2 kids. Then the Hong Kong troubles came and I moved back to Australia a few months ago. And it all started from watching a TV show and seeing a name I knew. I ran out of smokes late at night, went to the gas station at 3 a.m. to grab a pack, which led to a friendship that has lasted 2 decades now. My apartment was the party place. And after his shifts, all the cooks would come over and bring food and beer, and we would hang out and play Xbox and drink and smoke and smoke. One guy was a Russian dude. He was cool, always polite, always had great stories, always the last to leave. This particular night, cold as F January in the Midwest, was the same as every other one for me. The Russian dude had been coming over after shift for weeks at this point. All the cooks hung out, slowly everyone went home, and he was again the last to leave. I found that I had run out of smokes, decided to hit up the gas station across the street. As I walked out into the freezing night, I saw the Russian dude's car in the back of my parking lot. I went over and saw him sleeping in the driver's seat. I knocked on the window and woke him up, asked what he was up to. He informed me that several weeks prior he had been kicked out of his host family's house because his student visa expired, and was now living in his car. He had an alarm set to wake him up every half hour so he could run his car heat for a bit so as not to freeze to death. I told him to get his butt in the house and he could sleep on the couch as long as he needed. He never left. He basically moved in at that point. Used his under-the-table cash job to help buy groceries and pay rent. He became my very best friend in the whole world. He got married, became a legit citizen, and I am now the godfather of his son. I can't even imagine what my life would have been like if I had not gone to buy smokes that night. I was supposed to go to a U2 concert with a girl I was friends with, her boyfriend, and a couple other people. I had a knack for getting good seats at shows, so it was up to me to get the tickets. She went nuts and accused me of trying to break into her house to clean her carpets while she was in Croatia, so I kept the tickets. They hadn't paid me yet, because I still wanted to go, but not with them, because they were really good seats. I went to a street fair in a town a couple weeks later and ran into a girl I was friends with from high school who loved U2. I sold her a ticket, and she asked if she could bring a friend, which just made me think, woohoo, I'm selling another one of these really pricey tickets. The girls show up at my place day of the show, and her friend smiles as she's walking in. I saw the smile and knew that was it. I'm going to spend the rest of my life chasing that smile. Well, over 20 years, a couple of kids and dogs later, and as soon as I finish typing this, I'm heading to bed to snuggle up next to her. TLDR, I met my wife because my friends were nuts and accused me of trying to clean carpets while she was in Croatia. After high school, I attended a community college for a few years. I'm rather introverted, and I'm not good at making new friends, so for the most of my first term, I basically didn't interact with anyone. I had a 2-hour break between the 2 of my classes, so I started hanging out in the cafeteria because it had chairs and food. One day, I saw a guy rocking a blue fedora. This was before a fedora-wearing neckbeard stereotype was really a big thing, and also, this particular guy is not and has never been a neckbeard in any way, and I complimented him on it. We chatted a little bit, and he invited me to go join him and his friends, who also spent their free time hanging out in the cafeteria. Fedora guy and I dated for a little while, but ultimately we weren't a good fit long term, though we had remained good friends. The big thing, though, was that he introduced me to an internet discussion forum he was a part of. I joined that forum and became a very active member in that community, and made a lot of friends through there. Several years later, I was feeling pretty trapped in where I was in my life, working a retail job and barely making ends meet. With no resources to go back to school and no marketable skills to look for other work, a couple from the forum, who lived a good 600 miles from me, offered to let me move in with them and they'd support me while I essentially tried to restart my life. I took them up on the offer, moved from Oregon to California, met a guy I really hit it off with, and I am now married and working a job that gives me a great deal of satisfaction. All because I said, "Dude, I like your hat," to a stranger in a cafeteria 15 years ago. In November of 2018, there was a huge blizzard right around Thanksgiving. My college didn't close for a blizzard, so I went out early to get some hash browns from a dining hall before my psychology exam. I ended up falling and getting a really bad concussion and had to reschedule my midterm. The day after, or maybe 2 days after, I ended up taking a triple dose of my panic attack medication because benzos and concussions can really make you confused. I knew something was wrong when I went to the ER and nobody believed me that the overdose was by accident. So at the psychiatric inpatient, I was prescribed some antidepressants. Nurse reassured me that the good mood was just not being depressed. Instead, I was actually maniacally happy and high. Got serotonin syndrome muscle spasms, muscle atrophy, seizures, fever that didn't go down with Tylenol so I had to use an ice bath, coma for a bit. Quit college because I couldn't feel hunger. Went home, did physical therapy, and got antidepressants because serotonin syndrome ruined my ability to make serotonin. Took a DNA test and found out I metabolize SSRIs at double the pace. In the meantime, got to meet tons of nurses and doctors and discovered I wanted to be a nurse. Started volunteering EMT and even got to deliver a baby. Got a full ride to college for nursing too. I was invited to hang out with an acquaintance who I barely knew freshman year of high school. I wasn't sure if I should go, but I decided to try it out. We had so much fun, she became my best friend, and it led to regular meetups, and we both started bringing in more friends, and it just got bigger every month, with almost 30 people who got together every weekend by senior year. Many of us are still good friends, and our lives, spouses, and careers have all shaped by this group that I honestly don't think I would have formed if I hadn't been invited that night freshman year. 5th or 6th grade, I tried to confess to my crush by giving him a strawberry muffin. And my plan was to confess I was the one giving the muffin. He ended up having an allergic reaction that caused him to be taken by an ambulance. This caused me to never confess. Fast forward to junior year, we were starting to study the basis of a research project to help with our thesis for the following year. His original project partner ended up moving to another part of the country and had to switch schools. So he joined my group. At this point, I was over the crush, but it was nice having him as a friend. Then, one day, we were working on the project. I don't remember exactly how, but he brought out the topic that we should share a secret with each other to become closer friends. I told him about the muffin, and he came out of the closet to me. A couple of weeks later, he did it at the school. This caused us to become basically joined by the hip, and he introduced me to his family. And still, unknown to me, introduced me to my future BF, his older brother. We have been dating for over 2 years now. Boyfriend broke up with me soon after I got the opportunity to work abroad. I wouldn't have taken the job if the relationship would have continued, but because I was afraid to run into him constantly, I decided to go away. Met a very nice coworker, also foreigner. He turned out to be the love of my life. Now I'm living in his country, been married a couple of years, and we're expecting our first baby. My husband and I are from different continents. He's my one and only. I never would have found him if that dumb boyfriend wouldn't have broken up with me. I thank that ex so much. I couldn't afford college, so I applied for a naval ROTC scholarship. The recruiter told me an engineering major would have a higher chance of acceptance, so I applied for the scholarship with a chemical engineering and got it. Basically, of this scholarship, my choice of college was significantly narrowed down to colleges that accepted me. I applied FAFSA for, had an NROTC program and an engineering program. I had one college to choose from. The Navy thing didn't work out because I didn't do it for the right reasons, and because of it, I ended up going to a school in Michigan in the engineering school. Without this ROTC thing, I would have never gone to Michigan and I would never chose the engineering major. Chemical engineering didn't work out. I failed Physics 1 and Organic Chem 2, barely passing the first one. Didn't know what I was doing, on a ton of loans from out-of-state tuition, and poor as shit. I signed up for whatever free food opportunities, and one of them was free lunch with a free grad student program. Purpose of the program was for the grad student to convince undergrads to pursue grad school. The grad student I was paired with convinced me to give computer science a try. I did, since it was fine if I sucked at physics and chemistry. Had to do summer school to catch up on classes since I switched my major and the overlap between chemical engineering and computer science wasn't too big. Got a job as a summer camp counselor at the university for high school and middle school students. The professor that ran the camp also gave me a job as a TA for the remainder of my time in college. No longer poor as shit during school, still a ton of loans. The professor also got into contact with a recruiter at Microsoft saying I'd be a great candidate. Studied my butt off, got a real interview, studied my butt off more, got an internship, graduated college, went back full time, now living in Seattle, a city I absolutely love, loan-free, and no longer poor as shit. I have absolutely no idea where I would have ended up if I didn't try for that ROTC thing, since computer science/engineering was as far away from what I wanted to do as I could have imagined. Thank you for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing. It'll be greatly appreciated. And if you want to visit the original thread, I'll link it in the description. But yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one.